control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. In my heart, I can't let go, I'm breaking apart, controlling me, controlling me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bedtime Stories from Beyond of the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and thank you so much for being here, being a part of the journey. It's always epic to just come in and just see the names flying in. How you doing, everybody? Saying hello to all of you in the chat room. Thank you so much for being a part of every show. I have to tell you, our chat room really is like another co-host. You guys always contribute so much to the show. And those of you that call in as well. But thank you guys so much for being a part of it. And thanks for piling in the door as soon as the lights go on. That's an amazing feeling. I don't know. It's wonderful. I'm very honored, and hopefully I always deserve your enthusiasm. So I hope you all are ready though, because it's time for bed. All right, folks, the bedtime stories are now underway. So if you want to be a part of the show, there's always the call-in number. It's always live on the portal, unless we have a guest that may or may not be live during guest shows, but always on the bedtime stories. So if you want to call in, you have something paranormal of your own you'd like to share, please feel free. The number is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. So there's an option, but if you'd rather not call in, you're a little intimidated by the whole talking on the show kind of thing, which is just silly because it's just me. But if that's the deal, not everybody is a public speaker. Please feel free to email your stories in at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. Additionally, tomorrow our next podcast drops, and it's part 2 of our interview with Duke, and it was a great show, a lot of fun, amazing discussion, amazing content. I've listened to this many times, as of course getting ready for the show to be released, and it's still, Duke's one of those guys that he can go on and on and on about the cryptids and Bigfoot, and I'll learn something new everything he says. It's just amazing. So, but this is the bedtime story, so I hope you guys are ready. I'm going to pull up some stories here for you. I got all kinds of things open here. I got to close some windows, for God's sakes. Close some windows. It's getting drafty in here. Oops. What did I do? Oops. Didn't want to do that. Oh, I didn't share that. Let me share that. I meant to share that. I'm just seeing all the things that I didn't quite finish that I thought I had, but I think I'm all ready here. So let me close. Oh, I wanted to listen to that later. I always, as I'm browsing through and doing things, I always find things like on YouTube. And it's like, oh, I want to watch that. And then I'll leave the tab open and then go to a new tab and do other stuff. And then I'll forget I had the tab open and then I see it again. I'm like, oh man, that's right. I wanted to listen to that. But I don't know. I'm nearly like schizophrenic on the computer. I just get distracted so easy with so many different things. But hope everything's going good out there tonight. If oh, thanks, Julia. That's a great announcement. I appreciate that. And of course, Julia is our black tree in the chat room. She is one of our mods, wonderful person and a great help to me. Thank you so much, Julia, for all the plugs. I appreciate that. And let's get underway here. So the first one tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is coming out of Arizona. So let's see what's going on there. And if you're new to the show, the bedtime stories are essentially a shorter format, but Paranormal Portal. They're not much, usually around an hour long, a little under usually, but they're just a short format show. A few ghost stories, a little bit of dialogue, and I have a lot of fun doing these shows. And I kind of threw them out there just on a whim. I was like, I feel like I want to do more shows, and so I put together these bedtime stories, and you guys have really made it amazing. I didn't know how it would be received, but you guys have been awesome. So thank you so much for being a part of it and showing up every night over and over. And a special hello to my cousin and his wife who are listening right now. I can see you right there. All right, so let's go to Arizona and see what's going on. All right, so I got to skip all the fluffy crap at the beginning. It was exactly 3:12 a.m. when I got up gasping for air. I sat up in bed and called for Alex, who was already awake, and he asked me, what's wrong? And I said, I feel like the house is on fire. And he said to me, yeah, it smells like smoke, wood burning. We jumped out of bed thinking the house was on fire, and my father has a fireplace in the living room, but everything turned out to be okay. We ended up going back to bed, talking. It says we went to going back to bed talking what had just happened to us. We both felt like the room we were in was covered in smoke. It was very hard to breathe, like if the air had been sucked out. And a while later, we were calmed down enough to lay back down and try to get some sleep. And Alex, having to go to the bathroom, got up and went out the door. And about a second later, Alex came in as white as a ghost. And he was saying, there is somebody in your brother's room, and they are talking and cursing. And when he went to the door, everything stopped. No voices, nothing. He started back down the hallway to my room and where we were sleeping. And if you remember, my brother was one who would play with the Ouija board quite often. Oh, no. When he was younger, as Alex walked away from my brother's door, he was saying to himself, it's only my imagination. I don't believe in this stuff. And just then, he said he felt something grab his shoulder and push him towards my bedroom, where he screamed and yelled, something's after me, something's after me. By then we all got up and wanted to know what was going on. And as we were explaining to my dad about smelling the smoke and not being able to breathe and hearing the voices, he looked at us and, to my shocking surprise, said, there's something evil in this house. My jaw dropped because for the longest time, I've seen, felt, heard things that can't be explained. My dad always denied or never really listened to any of it until just now. My dad said that not long before, weird things were happening, like the TV going on and off by itself, and the bathroom sink would turn on, and he said he could hear like there was pots and pans being thrown around, and when he'd go to see what it was, nothing was out of place. And then he said one morning, when he went to the bathroom, which you have to pass my brother's room first, when he heard someone calling his name. Pete, they would say. And the reason I'm saying they is because my dad said There was more than one voice calling to him. He then started to walk towards my brother's room, and the voices were getting louder and louder. And he stopped in front of the door and said, "Who's in here? I have a gun, so you better come out." After a pause, he began to open the door, and he said it wouldn't open, and he pushed it with all his might, and the door swung open, and the most awful smell in the world came out. He said it smelled like something rotten and dead. As he reached for the light to turn it on, the light bulb blew. No light. My dad at that point said he closed the door and to himself started to pray. He said that he had never felt this ever like this, scared and confused about the whole thing. One of the readers said that my brother must have opened a portal, if you will, from the Ouija board, letting all sorts of lost souls to travel in and out and around our home. And my dad has let a person of the church who we have known all our lives come see if they could cleanse the house. But needless to say, I think it will not work, and that we will continue to endure these supernatural events. And I just hope in the long run, something could be done to lead them to heaven and to stop believing that they are still living among us, when in fact they're dead. In the case of these events, though, I don't think they're confused about that at all. Sounds like they pretty much are well aware of their situation, but they just don't like people much. And ladies and gentlemen, we've covered it many times on the show, but Ouija boards, again, I'm going to say it again, I've said it 100 times, but Ouija boards in and of themselves are not evil. They're not good or evil. They're just like your hammer is not evil. If you use it to pound in a nail and hang up a picture, it's a good thing. If it's used to smack somebody in the skull, it's a bad thing. Well, the Ouija boards, aren't really driven by intent as much, but they are a blind channel. They are something that people connect to blindly. And by connecting to it, they are surrendering themselves. They are acting as a blind channel to whatever is going to come through, and that's where the problem is. You can't open yourself up to, is anything here, come through and tell us on the Ouija board, which I'm touching and holding, and I'm being the conduit to. I mean, that's just a bad plan. So once you do that, you are automatically engaging yourself and opening yourself to that spirit energy, good, bad, or otherwise. Now, 90% of the time, when people use Ouija boards, nothing will happen. It'll just be a game, like it's marketed, like it's sold. It's a game. But that's, 1 to 10% chance that something does happen. It may be good, evil, or something else. I don't know. But that's the problem with the Ouija boards, is that they are a blind channel, and you really should know what you're doing before you mess with them, because it's just not something to play around with, I mean, it's really not. And I don't know how better to say that than, if you're going to use them, do your homework, do some research, try to figure out what it takes to properly prepare for contacting the spirits. What do you do to yourself? How do you cleanse yourself? How do you prepare yourself? Now, in ceremonial magics and other things of that nature, there's very specific things that are undertaken by the practitioners before they embark on casting any kind of ritual or spell. I mean, they don't just go, hey, I'm going to summon a pizza, and just Harry Potter a pizza up or something. I mean, it's a very specific ritual that is involved. Many ancient religions would do things like, you have to jump into the ocean, the salt water, as a cleanser, and would cleanse you and purify you before you embarked on this magical act that you were going to do. It was never just, hey, I'm bored, let's see if we can summon up some spirits, So everything was done with real purpose, and there was a whole methodology to it. So the advent of Ouija boards, which are recommended for ages 8 and up, mind you, have kind of trivialized all of that, and so much has been lost to the true traditions of how to touch the spirit world. Now, I'm not trying to encourage anybody to do this. That's not what this show is ever about. I'm not trying to teach you how to do this. That's never going to be what this show is about, because I'm not going to be responsible for that. But I will tell you, even ghost hunting and stuff, or researching, you should have definite methodologies that you do, and they should resonate with your faith, whatever you believe in. It doesn't have to be Christian. It doesn't have to be, whatever. It's what you believe in, what resonates with your soul. Do those things prior to doing the act, and then do them again to finish the act and cleanse yourself of any energy that might be lingering. That's the proper way to embark on these kind of things. So, giving your 8-year-old a Ouija board for their slumber party is really not a good thing, or you might end up with a situation like this where, now, another thing about the Ouija board, I'm just going through this real quickly because it's not a show about the Ouija board, but if you want to close the session, just having the planchette go over goodbye does not close the session. That's not closing that conduit in a real proper way. There are methodologies for doing that as well. And again, do your homework. If you want to play with them, that's fine. Again, I'm not saying they're evil. A lot of people just default to, Ouija board evil, that's the devil. I don't believe that, but I do believe that anything used recklessly and carelessly, especially when you're contacting the spirit world, has a gravity that most people don't understand, and has repercussions that can last for, a lifetime or more, or just, 15 minutes, but it might be 15 minutes of hell, I'm just saying. So be careful. Be careful when you're messing with the spirit world. It's not a game. It's not entertainment, and they aren't there to entertain you. It's like, would you go into your neighbor's house and say, "Hey, go get your vacuum and drag it over this carpet"? You just wouldn't. It's not respectful. It's not polite or even kind. It's rude. So, the same thing goes for any other way you're going to contact. These people in many cases were people. They were living people, and they still have those same characteristics they had in life. So whenever you deal with the spirit world, be very reverent, kind, polite, and be on your best behavior, I guess. All right, so that's all I'm going to say about it. There's many shows on the Paranormal Portal we've done about the Ouija board. You can certainly refer to those if you want more specific Ouija-related information, but that's my 5-minute synopsis on that. All right, so let's go to the next one. Where are we going next? We're heading to Texas, folks. All right, so I was young when I came into contact with my great-grandmother. My parents moved into my grandparents' home, and when my grandparents retired to the coast of Texas. Before they moved, my grandmother sat my sister and I down and explained how our great-grandmother had died in the house and still lived there. We thought she was crazy until one night. I was throwing a temper tantrum in my bedroom because I hated living in this house. In each of the bedrooms, there was a Tiffany-style lamp that hung above each bed, and I was sitting on the edge of the bed throwing a fit, and my father was next to me, consoling me, and I said, "I hate this house. I hate this house. I hate this house." And as I finished saying it a third time, the lamp above the bed swung backward, then forward, and then came out of the ceiling and hit me in the back of the head. My father turned to me and said, "See, you're pissing her off, aren't you? You shouldn't piss her off." We moved shortly after that, and I'd like to add the other things occurred in this house besides that experience, and we would be watching TV, and it would shut off all of a sudden. We would have to get up and actually switch it back on by pulling the knob that was used to turn it on and off. My sister would take a shower and put her jewelry in the bathroom counter, and nearly every time she did it, she would come out of the shower and find her jewelry in a pile at the bottom of the stairs. Other people claimed to have seen her standing in our dining room. Other family members claimed to hear breaking dishes upstairs, and when they investigated, they found nothing. There was a consistent cold spot at the end of my sister's bed, and we had a room in the house that we called the East Room. Nobody went in there. You could feel something or someone, some sort of presence there. All in all, I was a skeptic until my experience, and now I firmly believe in the afterlife, ghosts, and everything. Yeah, that'll convince you if you get a lamp pulling out of the wall and smacking you in the head. But it sounds like he had it coming. Just saying. That the great grandma was from an old school. She's from the old school. All right, the next one we're going to read, ladies and gentlemen, is coming out of Louisiana. My neighbors and I were very close friends, and we did a lot of things together. Or my neighbor, it wasn't plural, it was singular. When she moved, I was pretty sad because she really was my best friend, but I still have my sister, brother, and my parents. And one day, on Saturday morning, I started hearing strange noises from the house, like, when you drop a glass and it breaks, and it sounds like a lot like that. And also I hear growling. That's not a good sign. Not dog growling, but sort of strange growling. I also hear stuff like running, stomping, and regular walking in the house, and I totally get freaked out and looked out my window and I saw a pale face with green eyes and reddish brown hair. Well, that's horrible. I stepped back from the window and called the police, and when the police knocked on the door, I asked them what happened, and they said that they checked throughout the whole house and no one was there. Just telling you, I don't think they were real people. They could have left that fast. They could have left that fast right when I saw the face. There's no waiting. I called 911 immediately. But after that, I did some research about the house, and it said the house used to be a mansion built in 1587. Wow, that's plenty old. And then a young girl named Angelina hung herself in the bathroom. And yes, I've gone inside the house before the room. It says before the room. And I saw her face, and it was definitely in the bathroom. I have no clue what's going on, but I really think she's stalking my house because sometimes when I looked out the window, she's just looking at me. And my neighbor, my friend before she moved, did not tell me anything about a ghost in her home. Do you think you can tell me what to do so I won't have to worry? Well, buckle in, sit down. It's going to take a while. I don't know. I mean, a lot of old houses just have a presence. Some people are really keen on getting rid of those things, but I don't think those presences are necessarily a bad thing. In many cases, I think they're just fond of their house. They still feel like they have a sense of ownership. They still have a sense of belonging there, and I think that in many cases they can be, a good thing. I don't know. I really don't. I'm not really one of those people that think that every house should be spirit free. I don't think that's possible, for one, but number two, I don't think it's necessary, because I think they can live peacefully around people. It's just, if you think you got a spirit there, just have a talk. Say, hey, I believe you're there. If you're there, here's the rules. If you can live by these rules, we can live peacefully. If you can't live by these rules, then I will get rid of you. I think in most cases, as I was saying before, in many of these cases, the spirits were people, and most people don't want trouble. They don't want chaos and havoc and stuff. That's not exclusive, of course. There are some people that have no problem with chaos and havoc and seek it out. But I think in most cases, in situations like this, a talk is all you need to do. Just say, don't scare me, don't move things, don't, whatever, fill in the blank. Just my 2 cents, but I think that's really an effective first step. And if it doesn't work, then you got to escalate. But if it does work, then your problem's solved. All right, so let's continue our journey. Sorry for that little bit of fuzzy noise. That's my fan going because it's really warm in the studio tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful day here. Still sunny outside, but got to keep it dark because this is the portal. All right, let me go to this one. See if we can drum up here. All right, I'm going to go way down. I'll start at the bottom and go up. All right, here we go. How's everything? No calls. Okay, we're good. Whoops, I did that by accident. Let me open up a few more so we can continue our journey through the bedtime stories. All right. We'll go with those for now. I don't know how long they are. Never seen them before this minute, so I got to get a drink, though. Much better. Kool-Aid. All right, this one comes from California. Well, this is pretty long. I'm writing about these experiences because I hope someone can tell me whether it's an actual haunting or possibly if there are more rational explanations for what has been happening. My sister Janine, brother-in-law Ray, boyfriend Richard, and I all share a house and have lived there for several years. It was built in 1979, so it doesn't have much of a history, and we haven't experienced anything weird until the last few weeks. None of us are really in the superstitious type, but a few things that have happened recently are difficult for me to explain away. The only thing that's changed among us is that I've recently quit taking Celexa, which is an antidepressant that has unusual withdrawal symptoms. I feel power surges throughout my brain and body continually. And at first, I thought maybe the electrical storm going on in my brain could have caused some of the weirdness going on here. But now I'm not sure. The first ghost-type incident happened a couple of weeks ago. Richard, Ray, and I were all in the back of the house, and Ray had just finished vacuuming, and he and Richard were talking to each other from across the hallway, and Rich and I both saw Ray walk down the hallway toward the living room, and our dog Bella was right by his side. A few seconds after he left, the vacuum turned itself on. Janine was not in the house at the time, and Ray went back into the room and turned it off. We all forgot about it and went about our business. 3 nights later, however, Rich and I woke up to our dog bristling her back hair and growling. We looked out the window and couldn't see anything, so Rich petted her until she calmed down, and we both fell back asleep. And it was around 3 a.m, so I was kind of annoyed by being woken up in the first place. And a half hour later or so, I woke up again, and our Nintendo Wii was turned on. The blue disc light was pulsating slowly, and that must have been what had awakened me. And we hadn't used the Wii in at least a couple of weeks, and the remotes were on the shelf, well out of reach for the dog, and they are also kept at the side of the TV unit, so it would have been difficult for the remotes to turn the Wii on. I turned it off and laid back down, but didn't fall asleep, and a few minutes later, I could see the blue light pulsing through my eyelids. I turned it off and watched it for several minutes before I passed out, but it didn't turn itself on again, at least while I was still awake. I guess I saved the creepiest for last, but Ray's the only one who has experienced these, but I haven't known him to lie or make up stories. He and my sister are in the master bedroom, and their bathroom is directly in front of their bed. And on this night that the Wii kept turning itself on, he was walking from his bed to the bathroom, using the light on his Sonicare to guide him there. And about halfway to the bathroom, a dark form stepped in between the Sonicare and him, completely blocking the light out for a second or two. He kept walking, not really thinking anything of it, and noted that when he returned the bed that the light was fully visible and remained solid. It wasn't until I mentioned the Wii that he remembered the dark form in his room. How would you not notice that? They also kept their door shut, so the dog could not have been in the room that night, especially since she was busy in our room waking us up. Then 2 nights ago, the dark form visited him again. What makes it really creepy to me is that everyone in the house was accounted for at the time it happened. He periodically gets up at night and will sleep on the sofa in the living room, and that night, Rich and I stayed up late and were talking in our room, and we heard Ray come out of the room, and we were wondering who it was. And then we heard the clanks in the kitchen and heard the microwave door shut. So I said, "It must be Ray," and we continued talking. And we were up for quite a while after that, and neither of us got up. The next evening, as we all returned home, Ray was talking about being up late the night before, and I told him we heard him get up, and he said, "I must have been loud. I saw you come out and check on me." I have no idea what he was talking about and told him I didn't check on him. And he proceeded to tell us that when he turned off the light and laid down, he saw someone about my size come from the hallway, stop and look at him, and then go back down the hallway. I'm pretty positive Rich and I were still awake at this time, that he had laid down, so I really don't think I was sleepwalking. And also, my sister Janine has cerebral palsy, and her hips make loud snapping noises when she walks. It would be impossible for her to be walking and not make the noise. I try to think rationally about things like this, but I'm starting to get scared that we have a poltergeist or something malicious in the house. Hopefully this is the last incident we'll have, but if anyone could confirm or deny that this is a haunting, I'd really appreciate it. Well, first of all, it's not a poltergeist at all. There's not nearly enough activity to qualify for a poltergeist type of haunting. Poltergeist hauntings are literally way over the top. As far as activity, the only thing that competes with a poltergeist type of haunting is a demonic haunting. They're that energetic, and things are always going sideways in a poltergeist haunting. A true poltergeist haunting is no small thing. It's not just turning on a Wii and dark forms appearing. That's just a presence. A poltergeist haunting is, granted, our ideas of poltergeists are much like the movies. That's, we think that's a poltergeist haunting, and that's a lot of Hollywood there, but they are generally very active haunts. They're not a mellow thing. They're not subtle at all. They're way over the top. And they'll seem random, and like a demonic type of haunting will be absolutely focused on, very acutely focused on one person, but that one person will have a lot of changes, just like suddenly withdrawn, like a happy-go-lucky person becomes suddenly withdrawn and changes their entire behavior. And that's when you know that someone's could very well be targeted by something dark, like a demonic presence. But a poltergeist haunting doesn't necessarily targets. Well, they do generally deal with one person, and most often it's a prepubescent or pubescent female. Something about that transition for females can trigger this activity. Now, there's two types of beliefs surrounding the poltergeists. One is that it's a manifestation of the person, whether it's unresolved issues or whatever, coupled with that hormonal change can produce this intense psychokinetic activity around them. The other is that they are indeed a separate entity, but they key in on one person. But many people will experience a poltergeist haunting, but oftentimes demonic hauntings, in my opinion, are very pinpoint focused on one person, and that focus is meant to break that person down so that they can move towards a full-fledged possession. It's meant to wear that person down. It's a war of attrition. It's a battle of will, and it's unyielding. It's an unyielding kind of thing. So I'm lipstick. Seriously. It said lipstick. What the hell's lipstick got to do with anything? There's another random word. Now, that's the spirit app that I run all the time during the bedtime stories, and oftentimes during the mayhem shows as well. But I don't know. That doesn't seem to correlate to anything. I don't know what the hell lipstick is about. So that's the voice app that it has on it. It also has a ghost radar app as well. Again, the only time I've ever seen anything really made me question that there really might be something to it with the ghost radar was just the other night I was sitting here doing the show and I saw a little black ball move up from the floor and go behind my monitor, and I looked above and nothing was there, and suddenly the ghost radar went psh, and did its creepy noise. Otherwise, I don't usually have any correlation to when it picks up a presence. But apparently lipstick, as that means anything to you guys, I don't know. I think that's another random hit. So anyway, the poltergeist is not what these people were dealing with in this situation at all. A presence, sure, but it doesn't seem malicious. It's not harming anybody. It's just being maybe mischievous. So again, I think just a dialogue would help, but you never know. To each his own. So the next one, ladies and gentlemen, is coming out of Pennsylvania. I'm just listening. Oh, what? Hold on. I thought maybe Vamp was in here. Renee, I see you commenting, but I don't see Vamp as well. So, all right. I just saw the name and I was like, what? That's cool. But nope. Wait a minute. I don't know. I'm not sure what the hell's going on. I don't know. My own. Apparently, Vamp Lugosi is in here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Vamp is an old friend of the show. Has been around a long time, but it's kind of been away for a while. So I don't know. I don't know what Renee's talking about. But anyway, hey, Duke, good to see you. Thanks for stopping in, Nick. I guess I should go through the list here quick before we go on this next story. But, it's a short list. It says Black Tree, and that's Julia, our mod. There's Duke, D. Swiger. Good to see you, D. We missed you. Lewis is in here. Nick is in here. Renee is in here. And Robin is in here for Strange Realms. Good to see you guys. Deb is in here. That didn't come up on my list. What else didn't come up on my list? That might be it. Suzanne Lucero O'Brien. Good to see you, Suzanne. That's a new name, I believe. Orange County girl. Good to see you. Glad you made it. Isaac Areola. Or is that right? I hope I'm not pronouncing that wrong. I don't mean to be disrespectful at all. Areola. Thank you very much, Isaac. I appreciate that. Great to see you guys. Mike Cool, good to see you. Am I missing? I'm sure I'm missing more than that, but it's great to see you all. All right, Travis is in here as well. I don't know if I read Travis before, but great to see all of you. Thank you so much for being here. All right, let me continue. Oh, good to see you, Virginia. I didn't see you as well. Anyone else? Okay. All right, let me get on to Pennsylvania. When I was 12, my mom, brother, sister, and I moved into an older house in Shillington, Pennsylvania. And I've always been very in touch with my feelings when it comes to paranormal type of things. And from the very first time I ever saw the house, up until the first year we lived there, I always had a really odd feeling, but never actually experienced anything. My sister and I share the attic and would often stay up talking to all hours of the night. And one night, in the middle of our conversation, we heard someone walking up the attic steps. So we stopped talking and pretended to be asleep because we were already supposed to be sleeping. And while laying there, I realized that no one was actually walked up the stairs. And I got up to check it out, but it was nothing. We shrugged it off and continued talking until we heard footsteps again. We stopped talking, looked at each other and waited, and suddenly it sounded as though something was running up and down our stairs. Now that's just creepy. My sister jumped into bed with me, and we just sat there listening to it silently until we fell asleep. That's the part I don't understand, ladies and gentlemen. That happens all the time, too, in these stories. It's like, yeah, the presence was right next to my bed, and it was standing there, and then I fell asleep. It's like, how the hell could you fall asleep? Something is just inches away from you, and you got bored and fell asleep? Really? This happened several more times, but only to me. My sister never heard it again. Another odd thing that happened in our room was that both our beds used to shake. And it was an extremely violent shake. You couldn't actually see it shaking, but you could feel it. In fact, a few of our friends have felt it while sleeping over, and none of us could figure it out. I've always had other things happen just to me, like while putting my makeup on and in the morning before school, and several times it felt as though someone rushed up behind me, and each time it scared me enough to make me just drop my makeup. And speaking of makeup, it was always being moved around, or it would go missing completely. And no, it wasn't my sister, and I have also seen things out of the corner of my eye, and I swear, in the middle of the night, someone pulled the covers off of me. I also once woke up to the sound of a bag rustling around in the middle of my room, and when I quick flicked on the light, it stopped. One thing I can think of that didn't take place in my room is one night I was sitting in the dining room on the computer, and I heard the sound of something moving in the kitchen. And we just gotten a kitten, so I didn't think anything of it. And later, I went to get a drink, and I noticed that our space heater was moved from the far end of the kitchen all the way to the entrance of the kitchen. And there is no way that an 8-week-old kitten could have done that. These are the things that stick out in my mind from that house. And of course, at the time, I would feel a little uneasy and occasionally frightened, but I never felt threatened. From all the things that went on, it almost seems as though it was children. I eventually moved out when I was 17, and until that day that I moved out, I always felt something in that house. And I'm now 20 and have only really experienced 2 or 3 more things since. My family no longer lives in that house, and I've tried talking to my mom about the experiences, but she doesn't believe in the paranormal and laughed it off, telling me that I was young and it was just my imagination. So for the most part, why was it only me experiencing all of this, and has anyone had similar experiences? And oddly enough, that's not really uncommon that one person will experience more than the others, and it probably has more to do with the fact of that person is probably a sensitive, and they probably aren't aware of it, but they're experiencing more because they're the only one that's actually perceiving what's going on. There's many, many accounts of disembodied voices being only heard by one person when there's 2 people on either side right next to that person. Only one person hears it, but it's a profound voice to them, and they're absolutely beside themselves because they can't understand why did they hear it, and then why did nobody else hear it. The 2 big points. Well, the reason nobody else heard it is because nobody else has the clairaudience, which is the psychic hearing. But that person probably does, at least latently, they have that ability. And if they trained it, if they worked on it, meditated, and practiced, they could probably really tune it in and make it more than just a random event. But this kind of thing is real common, especially with and I hate this term because it really disqualifies a lot of people just by virtue of the term, but the term is gifted. And I don't like that because I think all people are gifted and all people have these gifts. It's just that some people are just born with them more turned on naturally, and they just come by it naturally, whereas other people have to work to develop that. And it's not a statement of value or worth. It's just a statement of fact. It's like some people are born artistic. Other people can learn to become artistic, but some people can just pick up a pencil and draw amazing things, and other people will have to train for years to draw anything. It's just the way of humankind, I guess. Exactly, Nick, and that's the other side of it, of course. Anybody that's has any kind of gift, it generally does have a huge price tag for that person, especially for empaths. Empaths pay a huge price because they have to experience everything everyone else experiences. And sometimes that's wonderful if you're around a bunch of people that are really happy and have a lot of great energy. Then being an empath is wonderful. It's intoxicating. But if you're around people that are in pain and sad and full of sorrow or anger or hate, it is it feels like you're walking through mud all the time. It's just, you feel like you just want to go hose off somewhere. So, but yeah, the psychics have to carry a pretty heavy load, and it's not easy. And part of that load is just getting people to recognize that it happens, that it's real. There's a lot of charlatans out there. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a lot of people that, everybody's, psychic. And I really believe that. But there are some people who claim to be psychic who have, I don't think much of an ability at that present time. But they think they do, but I've met some extraordinarily psychic people in doing this show, and it's been wonderful. But I've also, through my years, met many people who were psychic that I am pretty sure are not. Not that they couldn't be, but they just weren't at that time. So, just my 2 cents. But anyway, I do agree with you, Nick. Experienced deaths is something hard with empathy. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I agree with you. He says, I mean anyone, but empathy makes it worse. Well, it does because, in the case of an empath experiencing a death, the person that dies, I don't think, for the most, in many cases, doesn't really suffer. So the empath doesn't have to feel that. In most cases, death is just a quick transition. But what's hard is feeling the pain of everyone else along with your own. When you have to feel everyone else's grief along with your own grief, oh, that's a heavy brick. It really is. But I don't know. All right. So let's go to the next one. I hope my feed's going good. Is everything going good, guys? You hearing me okay? Seeing me okay? Is there any lags? Let me know. All right. So the next one is Utah. We're going to Utah, but it's spelled Utah. This one's a real short one, so let's see what's going on in Utah. All right, it says, last summer, I had an experience that I don't think I'll ever forget. And I was just about to go to sleep in my brother's spare bedroom, and I shut off my light, and I laid in bed, and my brother had gone to bed too, and his door was shut, and it was very noisy when opened, so I knew it wasn't him. And I suddenly heard footsteps pacing up and down the hall outside the bedroom. I froze, trying to tell myself to stay calm, and then, much to my dismay, the footsteps ended up in the bedroom right next to my bed. That is just so creepy. They gotta know what they're doing. Oh, that's such a mind game. I was right next to the bed I was sleeping in, and then something bent down, touched my shoulder, and whispered in my ear. It was a man's voice that said, "Everything's okay." It was not my imagination. I felt his breath in my ear, and I felt his presence come into the room and then leave. And after that, I had a creeped out feeling and didn't fall asleep until like 3 hours after that experience. The rest of the summer, I kept quiet for fear that I would scare my brother, and it wasn't until about a week ago that I finally actually told him. He said that he experiences it too, and he asked his landlady if anyone had died in the apartment, and she told him that her father had died in the room that I was sleeping in. I do believe it was her father's spirit that was just making sure all was well in the apartment. And after that experience, my whole perspective on the supernatural changed. Now, I know that ghosts can't hurt us unless we let them. And I would say wrong. I don't know where that belief comes from. Know that ghosts can't hurt us unless we let them. I don't know where people came up with that, but there's all kinds of people that have been hurt by ghosts that didn't let them and didn't want them to hurt them. I don't know. I mean, it sounds really comforting, and it sounds, and for the most part, ghosts won't hurt people. It's like, are you likely to go to the grocery store and while you're there start slapping people? No. So most of these spirits were once human, and as such are the same people they were in life. Well, they're not going to go around, bashing people just because they could, but there are, many accounts of people getting things thrown at them, being pushed, being choked. I can tell you off of the top of my head at least 50 sometimes I've covered stories just on, random stories from around where people have been choked. There are, sleep paralysis issues where people are pinned to their beds. There's no truth to that. Now, can you protect yourself? Sure, but it does require a little bit of esoteric understanding to keep that from happening. Yeah, you can keep it from happening, but that's incredibly naive thinking, in my opinion. That just that spirits can't hurt you unless you let them. I don't know anybody that let the ghosts choke them or scratch them or throw things at them or push them downstairs, pin them to the beds, et cetera, fill in the blank. But, I don't know, maybe it gives people comfort to believe that. And if that's the case, I probably shouldn't say anything. But at the same time, I don't feel that it's wise to misrepresent, the gravity of these situations. Does it happen often? No, it doesn't. Scratching happens a lot more often. But then again, are they all valid? No, probably not. There's people that are probably scratching themselves and then putting cameras on it. But I do believe it happens. So I don't know. I don't know where that comes from, ladies and gentlemen, but I wouldn't subscribe to that if I was you. Not as your best defense anyway. A ghost threw a glass punch bowl at my sister, but it didn't hit her. It landed at her feet. Yeah, well, I mean, that didn't hit her, so that is something. But the point is that it could have. Apparently, it was making some kind of point if it made that big of a display. There was a purpose for it of some kind. Maybe it's just to show, hey, I'm here. I've been trying to tell you. You haven't been paying attention, but here's your punch bowl, and make it land at their feet. Could it have thrown it at her? Probably. I believe so. But thank you, Renee, for sharing that. I believe you 100%. And Nick says, most of the time when they are being choked, it's the spirit trying to show what happened, and the person is not physically being choked. Yeah. I agree, Nick. I do, and I don't discount that at all. It's this, a lot of these things are, and what Nick is saying is a lot of them is an attempt by the spirits to show, I'm here and this is what happened. I choked to death. Maybe it was a hanging, or maybe it was, maybe they took their own life. I don't know, but I don't think it's always a malicious thing. I'm not trying to imply that, but the point is that I don't think these people gave permission knowingly to be choked. They just got choked because it was an attempt at communication. And so there you go. Oh yeah. Yes, it had a point. We were talking about it. There you go. So yeah, it was right there and was part of the situation. Yeah, that's very cool, Renee. Thank you for sharing that. Sleep paralysis of the throat and swamp gas. I don't know what that means, brother. But all right, let's continue. I had some swamp gas earlier, but that's not necessarily paranormal. Oh my God! You put a microphone in front of me, and this is what you get, ladies and gentlemen. It's not always pretty, but it's my show. What are you gonna do? All right, let's go to the next one. We got 54. How long is this one? This one's really long. This one's not going to be tonight. I got time for one more quickie, so let's see. That one's pretty long too. So I got to find a quickie to read you guys quick. A quickie to read you quick. Yeah, that was brilliant. I don't have writers, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just winging this. This one's nice and short. So this one's coming out of Louisiana. There were many times when I'd come face to face with a ghost. In my old house, I used to always see this ghost-looking figure in my hallway. My family used to always bring up ghost stories about the house, but I didn't really pay it any attention because I thought that was the past. But one day, I was in the living room watching television when this flash of light ran across the hall. So I jumped up and went towards the door, getting ready to run outside because I thought somebody broke into the house and was trying to do something, but I never did leave the house. Then this strange-looking thing ran across the hall again, and I could only see his bottom and never see the top, Only his legs were visible and the rest of his body was invisible. So I asked my mom, what's this strange looking figure that runs across the hall at times? And she asked, how did it look? And then I explained it to her. And she said that's the same figure that she always used to see at times, and that she never did discover what it is or why does it appear. I thought I was the only one seeing this kind of ghost, but when I started asking more people in my house, have they ever seen such a thing? Before they all said yes, they have, and they just wanted to keep it to themselves. So this strange figure has been a mystery to this day. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The ghost legs. They're ghost legs running across the hall. You know, I got to wonder, and this is just me repeating myself over and over, but a few of the stories tonight was we heard the steps going up and down the hallway. We heard them going up and down the stairs. You know, it comes up all the time. And I have to wonder, what the hell are these people, what kind of experience are these beings having in their afterlife experience? I mean, what the hell kind of existence is it to be stuck in a little place like that, just wandering the hall back and forth? I mean, it's gotta be, I mean, I don't know. I would think that these things would go absolutely bonkers. They would have to go insane because, I mean, I'm going to bring it up, but what the hell is that? Castaway with Tom Hanks? He gets so loopy on that island that he becomes best friends with a volleyball, for God's sakes, It's like it's got a handprint on it, and he's having whole conversations with this. So is that same kind of stuff happen with the spirits? And Nick, you might be a good one to ask, or Deb or Dee, do these spirits go insane? I don't know. I would have to think that it must be crazy. But there you go. That's the story for the night, ladies and gentlemen. All the stories for tonight. I hope you enjoyed this journey and had a good time. I love you all, and I'm so thrilled that you guys keep coming back for more. In closing, be good, be kind, be nice, take care of each other, help each other out, find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. And I'll be back tomorrow night for the Friday episode of the Paranormal Portal, 2 hours. The phones will be open, and I hope you'll join me. But you guys have a great night, and take care, and sweet dreams.